So hey guys, change of scenery this week. I'm in my living room, purple tapestry, gray couch, string lights. We're serving you a different room, a new look. So it's cute. But so let's go right into the video. So for this week, it was all about evacuations, and I really liked how this week was constructed because it kind of reminded me like a little bit of a BuzzFeed vibe because it was like myths, realities. So I was like, ooh, girl. So I was really reading it and I was like, ooh, spill the tea. So for this week, I was really interested in the myths because I was like, oh, well, what's true, what's false? So some really interesting myths that I saw was one that people act irrationally or antisocial, and this is always something that I always like didn't always think would happen, but I always thought maybe it could happen because I always heard about people looting, and I remember watching like National Discovery, and they were like, it was around 2012 when like everything was supposed to hit the fan, and they were like, just in case something happens, this is what's going to happen. And they were like, people are going to go antisocial, people are going to loot your houses, people are going to pillage, people are going to kill you. And I was like, oh my god, please, 2012, please don't do this to me because I cannot take that. And I actually from this article, said that people are actually pro-social and that crime rates seem to decline after. And I thought that was really interesting because you do see a lot of that, but for some reason the media and movies just kind of want to exacerbate and make it seem like these antisocial behaviors happen more, and it really kind of begs the question, why? Is it because people want to paint like a worse picture so it gets more views or something? And then that goes right next to the right onto the next myth, which was panic. And this one really interested me because it talked a lot about the skew that media has and how people panic and how it can take people's words and make it seem like they were panicking. And one interesting moment was about the World Trade Center, about how I think it was like 99% of people that were below the impacted um, area where the plane flew in actually like were very calm when they evacuated the building, which is so strange to me because if it was me, I would have been freaking out, and like I would have just looked at everyone like, what, like, did y'all not just see the plane hit the building? Like I would have been freaking out. I would have been screaming, running with my hands above my head like, oh my god, get me out of here. But literally, like, apparently people were calm, but I mean, I guess that shows that like even like the like what we think is like the worst people can still be really calm and not panic. And then the other one that was really interesting was disaster shock. And this was really interesting to me because as a psychology major, I tend to think like, oh my gosh, like after a disaster, like are these people going to have anxiety disorders, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder? And it turns out that a lot of people don't actually face major psychological issues after they, if anything, they do kind of have like an acute stress disorder, but only for a few hours to a couple days. But it seems that people actually function better after a disaster, and there's not a lot of major psychological issues that do happen to the population. But if it is, it's if the disaster is really sudden or if people already have a pre-existing psychological disorder. So I thought that was really interesting. And my final thing was warnings, and this really shocked me because I always well, the myth was that a lot of the warnings people get are from authorities, and it really made me think because it actually said that people actually get their warnings from friends or from the media, which is really true if you think about it because I always got my warnings from like the media or my friends. Especially in Hurricane Sandy, I didn't get any warnings from authorities. I always looked online or I would contact my friends and be like, "Oh my god, do you think it's going to be as bad as like the media's painting? Like do I need to get more stuff? Does my family need to board up their windows?" Like, and it would always just be kind of going to friends and making sure that like everything's okay. Um and the only thing I've really gotten warnings from my cops is like break-ins, like car break-ins. That was one time, and I was like, "What? This is what you're calling about?" Like now that I think about it, the muddiest point this week would have to be it was in the social integrative part, and it was convergence. It was kind of muddy to me because they were talking about how if there's a sudden influx of like volunteers or something, that all of a sudden like it kind of gets hard for everyone to like not have some kind of conflict or communication issues, which I do get, but I also think if people can kind of delegate and kind of like set out groups, it could be easier. So I don't get sometimes how that could be an issue, because if there's more heads and more people working together, wouldn't it be easier? And then for my question of the week, I actually just thought of one right now, but my main question is what is an evacuation slash disaster myth that you believed before and now knowing the truth, how does this help you or others you may know in the case of an emergency? And also, the one I just thought of right now is if you do know someone that does have a pre-existing major psychological condition, how can you help them in the event of a disaster to make sure that they do not experience such bad disaster shock, or that they may worsen their psychological condition or something like that? So yeah, something like that. And I think that those are two really interesting topics. Oh, and also along with that question, how can emergency management workers kind of help that population? Sorry, that kind of got broken up. But yeah, I think those are really two really good questions. But have a great week, guys, and see you next week.